today at the Emirates Stadium. But then you go to the venue for this year's final of the UEFA Champions League. The game that went down between Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. Fratesi, he was the one who scored the winning goal for his side. Talking about Inter Milan, as they defeated Bayern Munich by 2-1. But the good news is that Thomas Müller still has it in his locker room. This man is set to leave the Bavarians of Bayern Munich at the end of the season. Well, he came on as a substitute in that encounter and found the back of the net, making it 1-1 before Fratesi and made it 2-1 in the later stages of the game. But then later today, it also continues. Another 90 minutes of football action in the UEFA Champions League. Barcelona will be up against Borussia Dortmund, and also would have Aston Villa up against the Paris Saint-Germain. Which of the sides are going to come out victorious in the UEFA Champions League encounter? Games are set to go down today. We have our partners, the BBC Premier League updates. Of course, standing by, taking us through reactions from the game that went down yesterday at the Emirates Stadium, as well as the game set to go down later today. Also, they had the Parc de France. That's between Aston Villa and Paris Saint-Germain. But yesterday, it was just a great night of football action from Arsenal Football Club. And also, you could tell that for Real Madrid, well, if only there is a team that can do it again, it's all about the Los Blancos, 15-time winners of the UEFA Champions League. Yes, they have the mentality, they have the doggedness, that they can go into the second leg and, of course, overturn that 3-goal deficit and win on a good margin and ensure their qualification into the semi-finals. But till then, let's cross our fingers and see what Arsenal Football Club can offer in the UEFA Champions League for this season. Remember that they are 11 points behind the Liverpool. They are at the top of the English Premier League standing, and this is the only chance for them to fight for a title. Talking about the UEFA Champions League. Well, aside from the mother of all club competitions, we talk about Africa now. That's football as well. That's the CAF Champions League. Games went down yesterday, and I can tell you that 4 teams, they've been ousted from this year's edition of the CAF Champions League. The Confederations Cup second leg games set to go down later today as well. We talk about basketball stories. The River Supers of Nigeria of Rivers State. Well, this side they lost their game yesterday. Well, it was not the best of performance. It was not the best of outing, but they lost against the Egyptian side, Athlete Lad. And then we talk about some tennis stories on the show this lovely morning. But before we go much further, you're listening to the voice of Oluwatimilai SAMIES. So get the program this lovely Wednesday morning. Yes, for people within Ibadan and its environs, yeah, you know that it is such a wet that's Wednesday morning, and of course I hope that this weather can go well with our daily plan. But let's join our partners, the BBC, to take a listen to what they have for us on the show this lovely morning. That's the BBC Premier League update.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
Hello, I'm Shabnam Yunus-Jewell at the BBC Sports Centre. Declan Rice scored 2 brilliant free kicks in the second half as Arsenal stunned Real Madrid 3-0 in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final. Mikel Merino scored the third to put the cherry on the cake of a memorable night at the Emirates. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta says there were a number of factors that contributed to their magic victory.
One is the atmosphere that we created 15 minutes before kickoff already, something I haven't seen before. So playing with that energy, with that commitment with your crowd makes a huge difference. And then magic moments, individual moments that decide football matches. And the first 2 goals of Declan is just, I think it sums up the night.
Aston Villa manager Unai Emery is backing goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez to handle the hostile reception he's expected to receive in Wednesday's Champions League quarter-final against Paris Saint-Germain. He angered French fans during Argentina's penalty shootout win in the 2022 World Cup final in Qatar and has now been pictured wearing a cap with a French cockerel alongside images of Argentina's recent triumphs en route to Paris. Here's Emery.
He's mature and he's responsible. He's getting better controlling his emotions. Really, you know him. When he arrived at Aston Villa 5-6 years ago, and now it's different, Emiliano Martinez. I think he's more mature, he's a better player.
And Arsenal's victory means England are guaranteed a minimum of 5 teams in the Champions League next season. If Villa win the competition this year but fail to qualify through the Premier League, then there could be as many as 7 English teams competing next year. And for more football news from the BBC, go to bbc.com/football.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
right, moving away from football and the UEFA Champions League games that went down yesterday. Well, like I said, we have a game set to go down today. It's all about Borussia Dortmund and that's FC Barcelona in another quarter-final encounter. And then we would also have that's Aston Villa. They are at the Parc des Princes up against Paris Saint-Germain. Remember that Paris Saint-Germain, they've done the Lord's work, or they did the Lord's work against the Liverpool, outside Liverpool on penalty shootout after playing 1-1 after extra time. But then let's see what will go down later tonight also. But we will surely come in the afternoon to take reactions and also solace in the game that went down yesterday. And that's looking into the game set to go down later today. But let's move away from that and talk about a basketball story at this point in time. And it's all about the Rivers Vipers of Nigeria. Well, 𝐷𝐷𝐿 Alexandria, they extended their perfect start to the 2025 Basketball Africa League. It happened that they lost. And they came out with intent in the opening quarter, staying competitive with 𝐷𝐷𝐿 and managing to keep the score tight at 23-25. But at the end of the day, it was 𝐷𝐷𝐿 Alexandria which definitely got the victory, and it leaves them with a perfect record of 3 wins from 3, while Rivers Vipers drop to 2-1 with their first loss of the group phase. And the Nigerian team will need to regroup and adjust their strategy ahead of their next match against the host team, FUS Rabat. While 𝐷𝐷𝐿 will continue, we look to continue their dominant form as they aim for a strong finish in the group stages against the Stade de Malien. But then we move away from that also and talk about what tennis stories on the show. Yannick Sinner will return to the ATP Tour from his doping ban next month. The Rome Masters as well, the number 1 after the Italian. Well, his closest challenger Alexander Zverev crashed to an early defeat in Monte Carlo. For Alexander Zverev, he lost 2-6, 6-3, 7-5 to Matteo Berrettini in the Monte Carlo second round. And then in the words of Zverev, he said, "I've not won many matches, so it's been the worst period since my injury. Well, I played a great first set, and once I got broken in the second set, I played 10 levels down. My ball is much slower. I stopped hitting the ball." Those were the words of Alexander Zverev. But quickly, let's go straight to the continent and talk about some football games that went down. And that's the CAF Champions League. Mamelodi Sundowns, well, they survived Esperance scared to set up 𝐴𝐿 semi-final showdown. And then I can tell you that for 𝐴𝐿 also, well, this side, later a short goal sent 𝐴𝐿 through into the semi-finals where they will be playing against the Esperance and against Mamelodi Sundowns rather. But I'll tell you that for ASO of Rabat, they emerged as the 2-0 winners over Pyramids in the CAF Champions League quarterfinal second leg played at the Onia Stadium. That was late last night. But it was the Pyramids who progressed after they won their first leg by 4 goals to 1. And the scoreline on an aggregate was 4-3 on an aggregate scoreline. Well, games that went on also across different centers where we talk about European scene, the South American scene, as well as the African scene. You talk about women's football. It's all about the South Africa women's national team and the Banyana of South Africa. They wrapped up a friendly campaign with a confident 2-1 victory over Malawi at Lucas Moripe Stadium. That was yesterday afternoon. And then I can tell you that for Brazil, well, injury time goal, it gives Brazil their first win over the US women's team since the year 2014. The scoreline was 2-1. That was yesterday or in the early hours of today, I beg your pardon. And then in the Women's Nations League, Spain enjoyed goal first against Portugal as France also edged Norway. Spain won by 7-1 to move top of their group in the Women's Nations League. That was yesterday, while 2 late goals allowed France to emerge victorious there in Norway. Well, this is how far we can go to this edition of the show, but definitely we'll come later in the afternoon by 3:30 to discuss more about other sporting stories. It's all about the UEFA Champions League, and for lots of people there will say, rice, baby. Lightning doesn't strike twice. But what happened last night at the Emirates Stadium? We will come later in the afternoon to discuss more about that. But coming up on the hour mark is Baba Vendor with the crew. And of course, like I said, I'll be back here by 3:30. I am SAMIES, your sports captain. Do enjoy the rest of the day.